3, 2, 1, end of test. Skiing with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we are now on to a new topic. We're going to get into attack helicopters. And the attack helicopters, they had an interesting genesis. Now, I want to be clear. We have done some of helicopters that are in our collection. We've actually done some very early helicopters that were coming out of World War II. Specifically, what we're going to cover now are attack helicopters. Helicopters that are designed to bring love to enemy forces. But before I do that, I want to thank you with the tendrils here, Kevin. I'm sure this is actually quite frightening. My horpulation assistant, I'm going to toss this. Let's see if that has any weight. Not very much. I think it's off camera. We'll see. That didn't go anywhere. Now, this obviously is not the aircraft we're going to talk about, but it gives me something to fill my hands with. And we have talked about UEs on the channel before. We have over 200 videos, so go back, search through them if you want to learn about that stuff. We have one UE that is a work of art, so to speak, and we actually have a UH-1B that is a gunship, that is designed to be an early gunship. Now, the aircraft that we're going to be talking about today, I'm going to throw up a plan view, is the MIL, the Mi-4. It was known by NATO as the Hound. It was first flown in 1952. It was introduced in 1953. Now, it was designed in response to the H-19, the Chickasaw. But the thing about it that is misleading, although it looks like an H-19, the reality is the MIL-4 is much bigger. So it actually can carry more weight. Now, the interesting thing about this is produced from 1959, or 51 rather, to 1979. This thing was built a long time. And if you look at Soviet, and this really is a Soviet aircraft, Soviet production. You look at Soviet production, they got into designs, and if it worked, don't fix it. And they also exported. Remember, we were in the Cold War, and both sides had a lot of client states. It was cheap to produce. It was simple to operate. And remember, we've talked before about tooling. Well, you have 1951 tooling. You just, either export, give the tooling to a third-party contractor or a country. They can do it. You can build them. You can do whatever you want. There were about 4,000 of these bad boys built. They're still bombing around in some way, shape, or form in some third countries. I wouldn't fly in one, but they had the engine up front. It was a unique design. And they looked a little bit, like I said, like these Sikorsky, a lot of Sikorsky designs, but they weren't. Now, I will encourage you, when you come to the museum and you look at, we have a MiG-15 and a MiG-17, and we have a MiG-21. I want you to look at all three of those. Then I want you to go look at an F-105, an F-104, and let's say an F-4, which are contemporary aircraft, and look at the difference in design. Soviet aircraft design, as I said, it's like an anvil. A lot of exposed rivets. They don't care about aerodynamics. They want stuff to be tough. Remember, all this stuff has to be serviced in the field by 18, 19-year-old farmers, conscripts that were brought in. So they didn't spend a lot of time on utility. The Mi-4 had a jettisonable rotor, and that was the Russians. One of the problems is with this spinny thing is if the helicopter, that's a technical term, by the way, if the helicopter goes out of control with the gyroscopic effect, and you've seen helicopter crashes, they literally just tear themselves apart. There have been attempts to come up with jettisonable rotors. The problem is if the rotor doesn't jettison fast enough, you're in a Cuisinart, so to speak. And the other problem is that helicopters, depending on their attitude, you can have problems, especially with early ejection seats, not so much with Martin Baker seats and modern seats, which actually will right themselves. But depending on the attitude of the helicopter and the altitude, the modern ejection seats, you can pretty much eject on the ground and you'll survive. In the old days, you were sitting on top of like an artillery shell, and the artillery shell would shoot you out, and not only would you basically probably have no vertebrae left in your back after you were done with it, but there was no rhyme or reason how you left the aircraft. So, but the Soviets did play with this jettisonable rotor, and other people have done that. We'll talk about it a little bit later. This, as I said, was used, the Mi-4 was used widely in Soviet aviation everywhere, and probably the most interesting thing was the Indians used it extensively in combat. And I'm not going to get too far down into that because we're not trying to cover the Indian aviation combat history, but Indians used it very much for heavy lift. And if you think about when this was designed, remember we're talking about a 1952 design, that the Indians were effectively able to use it in combat for heavy lift. That's pretty amazing. Now the Mi-4AV was the assault version, or the assault helicopter. It had anti-tank missiles, early anti-tank missiles, 57 millimeter unguided rockets, and 7.62 machine guns, like flex machine gun mounts that they could put on the side, or one would pop out on the side. My understanding of reading up on this with my research in War Thunder, so War Thunder, by the way, is not a sponsor of this video, is that it's completely useless. So that it was not a very effective attack helicopter. Remember, like the Hueys and the earlier helicopters, American helicopters, no armor. So anything, a military machine gun round or any type of light anti-aircraft would go right through these things. And they were really dangerous. There's a reason why in Apocalypse Now, when they're going in to the LZ, the hot beach, to go surfing, that they're all sitting on their helmets, because there are certain parts of their anatomy that they do not want to get shot in. So with that, I'm going to take a break, and my salute today is all of the designers behind me. I have a Hiller, a UH-112B, and first of all, to the Hiller Museum, they donated this to us. I want to say thank you. If you're a repper in the Hiller Museum, thank you so much. But this gives you an idea of rudimentary helicopter technology, and I want to salute all the people that were brave enough, not me, that were brave enough to get up in these helicopters. If you think about this, there wasn't much there. I mean, it looks like essentially a lawnmower engine, and with rotors attached to it. This one is in Royal Navy garb, but really, what a dangerous program. But they were the pioneers that, moved the ball. Helicopters not only went from, they were evac, they were medical evac, they could bring in food. Early helicopters like this did not have much lift capability. There were more observation, but the helicopter pilots were constantly pushing the envelope forward and pushing these machines. The B model Huey that we have, that was used in Vietnam, the early B model Hueys, they would take a magic marker and draw a pipper on the screen, and that was their sight for them to fire their rockets. So there wasn't a lot of thought that went into this, and they were modifying these aircraft, and the Mi-4 was no different. They were modifying these aircraft in roles that they didn't think about. So if you are an early helicopter mechanic, designer, builder, pilot, aficionado. I salute you. And today, what I'm going to salute you with, Kevin has gone down the path. Always ask for Avery's. It's so disgusting. This is totally gross soda. Thank you. Worm ooze. Let's see. Worm ooze. It does have a California Redemption certificate. So, bottled by Avery's Beverage. Orange kiwi. All right. So, we're going to see if orange kiwi is what worms ooze. Let's see if we get a little bit of a fizz, but a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. We're getting a little bit. It looks like a beer. Really what it looks like. All right. Here we go. Nah. Whatever it is, I don't like it. It's flat. It's done. We'll try one more. Oh, that's another one. Like, was that last week where I just basically took 2 little sips and I was done? So the Indians use these heavily in combat, and then and for lift and things like that. They were used in a pressed-in role as a gunship. One of the ideas early gunships was to keep the enemy's head down. If they knew that you remember, if you have the high ground and you're shooting at someone, what does the opposite side do? The tendency is to just pretty much put your head down. Look, a bullet can kill you. And if you can get lucky and you're strafing these guys and you hit a few of them, and a lot of people will get their head down and they're not going to stick their head up to shoot back. So the gunships, the early gunships, were just something to get people to force that infantry if they were going into a landing zone or somewhere, get people to put their head down, and then obviously we've gotten more and more sophisticated. But by the 1970s, the Mi-4 had pretty much passed into history. Now, there is an interesting country that continues to use them. Kevin, you know who it is? The Hermit Kingdom. The North Koreans are still using these after all these years, which makes sense. They don't have a lot of replacement stuff, so they're still using them. But the aircraft is, except for some really oddball civilian uses, and maybe there's still some doing civilian use in Russia, the Russian Federation, they have pretty much passed into history. Now, if you want to be the coolest kid on your block, this has got a whole bunch of military helicopters, some pretty close to the Mi-4. It is not on here, but there are Soviet era helicopters on here, so you would want this. A lot of Cold War stuff that is flying around there, so you want this. This is suitable for framing. So Jason painted this himself and made this. He didn't paint it himself, but he will run down to the post office and mail you one of these out. So click on that link and get yourself a cool puzzle. Now, if you like Warbird videos and you came across us on YouTube and Facebook, click on the link and give us a subscription. We could use that. Give us a comment. Send us to your friends. We do this in one take. There's a little production there from our dear friend Greg at home, who does all the stuff that puts all the magic in the video together. We cannot do all of this great stuff. We cannot work on this Hiller and the stuff we do without your donation. So get out to our webpage, click on the donation link, and send a donation. We would appreciate that greatly. If you're teaching the kiddos at home, click on those education links. Our teacher's guides are there. Great stuff. You don't want to miss that. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. Team with a go.
Rise to the blessed day, all my fears have gone. I guess this means I'm here to stay. Yeah, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly. Wasn't long ago I shook at the thought of being hooked. But ever since I wrote my book, I'm ready to fly, ready to fly.
Come along and join us, we can plug you in a simulator. We'll teach you how to dance and be the perfect imitator. We'll give away all your music to the operator. We were born with a light to shine, and we can do it in our lifetime. And when we get the balance right, oh, we're riding on the satellite.
I was walking down the park, saw them hitting the beat. The sound that emanated, it was really sweet. Told them of a shy young man bitten twice, and gave a little old school good advice. Pretend is not the thing, got to be yourself. Honesty, integrity, happiness and health. Bending to the needs of others ain't the way. Be true to yourself and let the music play.
Come along and join us, we can plug you in a simulator.